episode 23 of Film Stop. Today we're going to be discussing Knives Out, and I say we because we have returning guests from last time. Yeah, you just heard one of them. Well, he's technically always here, but we still have...
Whether you like it or not.
No, we like it. But we have Pat and Claire joining us again. Hey, Pat. Hey, Claire.
Hey, Siraj. How's it going?
Hey.
And we have Bo. What's up, Bo? So, we're going to be talking Knives Out. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
I got my knives up for Knives Out.
That's the most energetic I've ever seen you. Even more than your bachelor party. Before we get into the discussion, guys, we're going to go through the drill. Like, share, subscribe, rate, review, comment. You know where to find our podcast. If you're listening to this, you probably found us. And thank you for being here. So, we're going to talk about Knives Out, Knives Up. And before we do so, I'm going to read through the synopsis real quick. So, this one's a whodunit. It's directed by Rian Johnson. It has a stellar cast, and I'm going to read through the cast real quick, too. But the synopsis goes, when a crime novelist dies just after his 85th birthday, an inquisitive detective arrives at his estate to investigate. He soon sifts through a web of red herrings and self-serving lies to uncover the truth behind the writer's untimely demise. So, that's the synopsis, and it really doesn't give you anything. But,
yeah. Who
do we have in the movie? We have Daniel Craig, who plays the detective. We have Toni Collette, Jamie Lee Curtis, Catherine Langford, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas. It really just goes on. Who am I mentioning? Oh, yeah, Michael Shannon, Lakeith Stanfield, Don Johnson, Christopher Plummer, Eddie Patterson. It's just a crazy cast. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to start off, guys, with a quick spoiler-free discussion. And since this movie is pretty plotty and pretty, I guess, it's a thriller.
It's a thriller.
We should be careful about what we say and what we give. But Pat, we're going to start with you. What did you think high level about the movie? What was your overview?
I was definitely entertained throughout the film. About halfway through, maybe a third of the way through, I was a little bit concerned about where the rest of the movie was going to go. Mm-hmm. But then after that, it definitely kind of, not necessarily kept me on the edge of my seat, but it kept me entertained for the full 2 hours. A little bit longer, I think, than it could have been or should have been. Mm-hmm. But definitely good movie.
What do you think, Bo?
Thoroughly well made movie. So my barometer of what a good movie is, well, one of them is that, like, if I can go through, especially a thriller, and none of the elements in the movie are what I would say dispensable, that is what I would call a good movie. And this is one of those, where no single thing that they mention or put in your face, or not even quite put in your face, like have it in the background, all of those elements are crucial to you kind of figuring out or them revealing at the end of the movie, whichever comes first. So, yeah, very well done.
How about you, Claire?
Yeah, I definitely liked it a lot. I would see it in the theaters again. No, maybe like not again. I would see it again. I would see it again at home because I'm cheap and I'm not going to pay extra to go see it in the theaters again.
Yeah,
I would recommend others to see it in the theaters. But yeah, I think it would be interesting to see it a second time, like a lot of those like whodunits, to be like, okay, now that I know what happens, can I trace it back and see what happened? And I would definitely see it again. Like Pat said, it was like a little bit long. So, and there were a lot of funny parts, which I really liked in the theaters the first time. But thinking about if I were to see it a second and third time, those funny parts probably wouldn't be that funny.
Unless you watch it like after 2 years or something.
Yeah, like maybe if like you forget what happens a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I can echo most of what you guys said, and I think that I've been wanting to watch a whodunit in a very long time, and this one kind of is a good sort of homage to the Clues and the Gosford Parks. If you like those movies, this is definitely one that is a interesting sort of harken back to that, and I think it is meta enough. It is new age enough. It's kind of it takes all of that those movies had and kind of adds to it, in my opinion. Really well written, sharp, witty dialogues, and brilliant performances. I think that performances for me, and I think it's more so the people who are playing the performances are in the cast that kind of make up the performances. Like, they didn't have to do too much to be really good in this movie, and they were just as they were. Their personalities, their persona, their charm was showing through, in my opinion.
I'd say Clue's more of a comedy, but
yeah, Clue is a comedy, but this one kind of maybe is not as funny, but it definitely takes the whole the Clue and Gosford Park are the two sort of pillars of whodunits that come to mind when I think of whodunits. There's many. There's many. But this is the one that is like, you put everyone in a house and someone dies and now you solve the murder. Like, it's that kind of... And they kind of say that in the movie, too. This is like a Clue house or something like that. He refers back to it.
Although, I will say this. In contrast to Clue, in which there's multiple ways in which it could have happened. It's really kind of one way this could have happened. So
yeah.
So I've never seen Clue. I've never seen that other movie that you referenced.
I haven't seen either of those either.
The thing that I would say about
Clue, it's really good.
I would say Gosford Park is also pretty good. If you haven't seen it.
Yeah. The thing I'd say about this movie is that all the expository, or all of the clues, if you will, are presented in the first 15 minutes. And then it's kind of like it's recall throughout the next hour or so. And then the last hour of the film is kind of...
putting it together.
A build off of that, kind of build off of what had happened in the original storyline.
Yeah, so
a lot of flashbacks.
So is there certain things that, clearly we all really like the movie. Is there certain things that you would say, or things that you did not like about the movie? Can you guys think of any?
There was a vomit scene that I could have done without. So one of the main characters, this happens early on, so it's not like a spoiler, but she can't lie. Like, if she lies, she has to throw up. So there's a few times that she throws up into, like, buckets and you don't see it. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But there is a time when she throws up and it, like, lingers on somebody's face. And it's like, I don't need to see that.
I think in the context of that particular scene, it was kind of earned.
No, yeah, I had to, like, turn... I know it was probably, like, vegetable soup or something, but, like, I definitely had to turn my face.
The carrots are there.
Yeah, it was very gross, and, like, it was, like... This isn't a spoiler, I don't think. It was like...
No, we shouldn't say who they were and what happened.
I want to say it was more than just the vomit itself. It was more the emotion behind that.
But I had to look at it on somebody's face for too long.
I was a little squeamish too, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to turn away because this is a very interesting scene. What are some other things? I mean, I personally, I think you guys hit the time a bit earlier on the head. I think that the movie could have possibly trimmed some parts. I think that there's some parts in the middle that it could have trimmed. And I think that it could have done without one or two characters. So I see why you need Meg and the other kid, the Nazi, the alt-right Nazi. I can see why you need them, but they added very little as compared to all the other pivotal characters, to me, at least, per se. And this is like, I'm picking at it, but yeah.
So I'm going to differ a little bit because I did also feel what the other contributors are saying, in that toward about a third of the way in to maybe about the halfway point, it not quite dragged a little bit, but it was a little bit slower. But I think it contributed to the eventual kind of crescendo and how it kind of unfolded. So in that point of view, I actually think that was a good thing, because it kind of, the quasi-lull helped to accentuate the rise.
Sure.
Yeah, you can't necessarily have that peak without the valley in between.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
All right, so before we get into the spoiler-filled discussion, guys, what are your what are your? I got to tell you guys, we've had a lot of tacos today, and Bo has been. Well, actually, all of us have been drinking, and I apologize.
Wait, can you elaborate on the tacos?
Yeah, so I cooked meat for the first time today. Well,
Siraj is I would say domestically inexperienced.
Wow. We're not gonna go too deep on my domestic experiences, but I think that I've learned how to cook steak tacos today, and
they were very good.
Yeah,
they were good.
Very delicious.
Thank you. And I mean, I had a lot of sous chefs who are helping me or telling me what to do.
It was a team effort.
It was.
We had a lot of tecate to go with the tacos.
And four roses.
Yeah, and
Bo's had some bourbon.
It was
a lot of bourbon.
4 or 5, I don't know.
Oh my god.
Anyway, let's continue.
Actually, there's just one question I have before we jump into the spoiler-filled discussion, guys. What is your verdict? Our scale, just to remind you guys, is would you recommend this to be watched in the theaters? Would you ask people to stay at home and watch it on video, or do not watch it at all? And I think, Claire, you hinted at your recommendation a few minutes back, where you said that you would recommend people to go watch it, but do you want to just kind of jump on that?
Yeah, I would recommend to go see it in theaters. We actually tried, the four of us went to the theaters. We got our tickets, but we showed up like a little too late, and it was a 2 o'clock, after Thanksgiving, 2 o'clock movie on that Saturday. It was totally full, and this was still during the previews. We had to be in the front row. So it's definitely a popular movie, packed. We ended up asking the theater if we could wait till the next showing to see it. So we went to a later film, got a better seat. But yeah, it was fun seeing it with a crowd. People were laughing. People clapped at the end, which I thought was kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good movie to see in theaters. I think it could also be fun at home. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the movie.
I would echo that. I think the theater, for once, I agree with Siraj. The theater experience actually accentuated it somewhat in that there was a communal aspect to it. Like a lot of the jokes was, I would say, accentuated because everyone was kind of like giggling and laughing along with it. For once, I agree with this motherfucker. Anyway, so now I would say see the theaters, support genuine new ideas and cinema.
Independent ideas.
Yes,
if you will. I would say not necessarily in a theater, but you definitely want to see it in a group of people who react.
Fair.
A group of people who react audibly. Kind of like what Bo was saying. It's like you want to hear the laughs, you want to hear the claps at the end. You kind of want to hear kind of people going along for the ride. Honestly, like in the previews, they say like see it in a full theater. I know that that's just a selling point for them. I wouldn't necessarily say that I wanted to watch this with a bunch of strangers. I just wanted to watch it with a bunch of people who wanted to watch the movie. If that's, I know that's a small nuance of a difference, but
no, I would actually echo that, and I'd say that actually watch it with your family if you can. This is actually a very fun movie to watch with your family if you're able to, because it's such a quippy sort of family.
Yeah, it's family friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, and it's just there's just all this banter, and there's just 2 or 3 scenes where there's just so juicy fights happening between the family that are hilarious, but also well written.
What age are you saying is appropriate? Because I don't think this is appropriate for some kids.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I would say like if you have teenage kids and above, I think you can watch it with your family.
It's a PG-13.
Yeah.
And also, I'm echoing Bo. Watch it in the theaters because it's a movie that is an original. It's something that there's a lot of creative juices behind it, and it does a good job at entertaining you. Pay money to watch it. You paid it to watch Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4 and Avengers Endgame. Watch this one too if you can. Which looks like people are watching because it's had a good week in the box
I
office.
feel like it's like a bootstrappy movie, but I mean it has huge stars.
Yeah, but which is I think they backed it because of the story and the script, and also the director behind it. So that's our verdict, and we will jump into the spoiler-filled discussion right after this short break. Alright guys, welcome back to our spoiler-filled discussion about Knives Out. And without further ado, I think that I want to start off, guys, with just what we haven't addressed yet, which is the subtext. The immigration subtext that it had. The movie is so relevant to the 2019 political and immigration landscape. What was your opinion on that? Do you think the movie did it well? Did it overdo it? Just right? What do you guys feel about that?
I'm just saying they need to get out of our God-given country. No, I'm just kidding.
God, I almost lost all of the 3 listeners I have.
Yeah. I would say they did it tastefully enough where it didn't kind of overpower the film, but they definitely got their point across. You had the conversations of the siblings that clearly we're not supposed to like the siblings. We're not supposed to feel bad for the siblings. But so anything that they necessarily talk about or anything that they necessarily believe in, we're not supposed to say is the gospel. And then it even came back kind of towards the end as well. Chris Evans had a line at the end about how this is our
our country, or no, this is
somebody's
our home
house.
and
Yeah.
get out. Yeah.
This is my family's heritage of this home, and here they only had the home for 30 years, and they bought it from a Pakistani family. So they definitely used it for comic relief, I would say, which may be part of how they got their point across, but definitely not overpowering, but definitely subtle enough to get their point across.
I think that it was well weaved into... Well, okay. My sense is that they came up with wanting to address the immigration issue through this whodunit before they came up with the story itself. Because if you think about it, the way they had the written, parts written for a Hispanic maid or nurse, and how she plays into the story and how she gets pinned down as a... or how she has to figure out how she can get out of this entire... I don't know, possibility of her getting caught and her having the illegal mom immigrant, and then having this white man on this other side who says we'll help her, and at the same time...
We're spoiler-free, right?
Huh?
We're spoiler-free, right?
No, we're spoiler
Spoiler-filled, excuse me.
Yes.
Unleashing the spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah. But at this point, I'm going to make clear, at this point, Bo has had about how many bourbons? 5? 4?
Nah, it's more than that.
Oh my god. Okay, sorry about that.
But my point is, guns free. Anyway, so yeah,
Can I say something? Okay, so
back
back on the track that we were on.
Yes.
Okay, so what I thought was cool was that it felt like a really timeless movie. It was because it has that kind of film noir, whodunit aspect to it, but then there were all these touches that were very 2019, the whole immigration part. They had some jokes, Pat said, it was kind of joking about present day stuff with Twitter. Somebody made a joke about Jewel, so stuff like that. If you just took those things out, those references out, it would be you could have thought that this movie was at any point in time.
Yeah, I didn't think it was 2019 specific. And to that point, you also had what was her name? The youngish girl who's still in college. Yeah, Meg, who apparently was the quote unquote SJW who was willing to sell out whatever when it really
why
came
don't you
down
tell
to
us
it.
what SJW
I don't know.
is?
I didn't know what that meant. There were a lot of things I didn't know what they meant.
By the way,
Oh.
the opposite of the red cap Nazi whatever, and I was like, that's kind of funny humor. Well, I mean, it was all kind of humorous because they're all hypocrites.
That's what I was saying. This is not a movie for little kids, because it's there were a couple times where I was what does this mean? And some of them were kind of they weren't racist jokes. They were like somebody was making some type of like race-filled joke, and like it was supposed to be like a commentary on it. Like they made those jokes about like anchor babies. And I didn't know what that was, and it's like stuff like that where it's like I wouldn't bring like a younger than 13. It's like PG-13 for a reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that makes sense. But I think that also there's some credit to be given to how organic it all felt in the movie. It didn't like it. To your point, Pat, it was subtle. It wasn't something that was like it stuck out. Not to me, at least, at any point did the dialogues like stick out. And the other thing that I felt was pretty cool was the way they had, and Bo, I think you were referencing this. They had sort of balanced out thoughts and opinions without kind of hitting it too hard on the head that, oh, hey, we have balanced out thoughts and opinions. Here we have a, what's his face, Detective Daniel Craig, who is definitely sort of seeing all and siding with her or seeing her kind heart, as he keeps referencing. And then on the other side you have Chris Evans and his father and that side of the family, which is a complete, whatever. We're not trying to talk about our political leanings. We're just talking about how how the movie kind of did it, or at least showed its political leanings. It was not biased. It was definitely biased. Sorry, it was not taking a central stance, and I think it did a good job at kind of organically doing so and not sort of stuffing it down your throat. All right. So with that, guys, what did you guys think about the performances? So who did you like the most or enjoy the most?
Is it Christopher Plummer? Is that the name of the guy that died?
Yes.
I liked him. I don't know if it's just like I liked that character or what, but like I liked everything that like when he was in it, and like I liked like the way that like when he dealt with what happened and he thought he was gonna be overdosing on morphine. Like I liked how he dealt with that. I liked his whole backstory of how he writes these mystery novels. I liked how he dealt with his kids. Like, I wish that there was, like, even more of him in the movie, because I would totally watch, like, a full movie of him in it. Okay. I don't know if it's the actor or just the character, but...
He definitely brings the elegance to the character that it requires.
But I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a fan of Daniel Craig in this particular movie. He pulled off the quasi almost Southern quite well, and like in general, like he was very well suited for the role. I thought in terms of subtlety, the really the more the
groundedness,
but also like the revelation of the full breadth of the character towards the end. That was almost a little unexpected. Like, I was a little worried part of the way through that they might have done the whole, he's kind of a dumb shit. But turned out, no, he knew.
I really enjoyed all the siblings and the daughter-in-law. I just felt like they did a really good job of making us hate them.
That's a good point.
Kind of to use some sports entertainment vernacular, they were great at being heels. They knew what the crowd didn't want them to say or didn't want them to do, and then they did it. So I would say great performances by those. And then their kids, so the two that Claire alluded to and that Bo had mentioned before, you definitely had one that was far left-wing, kind of ultra liberal, and then you had one on the other side as well as the ultra-conservative. I just felt like it was a good balance kind of between the grandkids as well as the kind of siblings themselves.
And I think that, more specifically to me, in the siblings, I think Michael Shannon and Toni Collette are they're so brilliant. We have two dogs that are really sleepy here with us. Toni Collette and Michael Shannon. I think they both kind of take the cake for me, which is, playing these characters that are two sides of the same political coin. You get the left and the right, but also I think they bring their charm into the characters, which I may be biased. I love Michael Shannon and I love Toni Collette, and they're great in those two characters. I also agree with you guys on the other actors and Daniel Craig with his draw. I think it took me a while to get used to it, but once I got used to it, I really enjoyed it. So, with that, last question, guys. What did you guys think about the thriller part of the movie? Like, did it keep you guessing? Did it entertain you? Did it feel like it was the plot itself was what, when you stepped into the movie and when you walked out, did you get what you wanted out of the movie from the plot standpoint?
Yeah, I would say what kept me kind of engaged with the film was how I just didn't know how everything was going to come together. Mm-hmm. Like what I mentioned earlier is that they kind of give away who or like how the author dies at probably a third of the way into the film. And I think I even turned to Claire and I was like, I don't know what's going to go on for the next hour of this thing. But they definitely kept me engaged, kept me entertained. I wouldn't necessarily say kept me on the edge of my seat for that last hour of the film, but it was definitely entertaining enough to stay with it.
I would extend that one step further and say that, all of what Pat said was true. However, I would say that it almost kind of lulled you into a false sense of security, so to speak, and saying, oh, well, here's how it went. But somewhere at the back of your mind, you're like, wait, there are these other things that are somewhat unresolved. And then, it kind of exposes itself in a way in which it addresses those things. And that's what I think it did really, really well. Mm-hmm.
Would you say there were almost other holes of a donut that were missing from the film?
Can we please not? And if you watch the film, you will get that.
Well, at this point, I hope you have, because we're just really spoiler-filled. What about you, Claire?
So I didn't go into the movie really knowing much about the plot or what was going to happen. So I didn't really have a ton of expectations. But yeah, during the movie, I was definitely entertained. Like Pat said, not at the edge of my seat, but entertained the whole time. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like the end is crazy surprising. We talked briefly about it. It's not a twisty film, but it's definitely a fun ride. I think the way all of the pieces come together, I think that's what makes the movie, rather than if you're going in to find out who could be the killer. I think that's less of it. It's not that there's it was a dream all along. It's not one of those. And so I think I went in kind of expecting that, but nonetheless I was still pleasantly surprised.
There were parts of the movie where Pat and I kind of looked at each other and were like, is he actually dead? Is this just a story of his? So there were some questions.
It definitely had Agatha Christie kind of vibes to it. So we weren't sure if... I'm a big fan of the Hercule Poirot short stories. And basically in all of those, it's this main character, Poirot, who is very similar to the Daniel Craig character in this film, in which he, at the end of the book or at the end of the story, just kind of sits down, thinks about it, and then he comes up with a conclusion at the end.
Which is kind of what happened with this, where he just kind of pieced together all these parts, and you got to see them, you got to see it play out through kind of these flashbacks. But
yeah.
So if you really wanted to just find out who did it, you could just skip to the end. But that's not why these films or these stories are told. It's to kind of go along for the ride.
Right. I mean, you could if you were a sad, pathetic individual. But, what's the point? Why are you doing this? Right. Don't you have something better to do?
I mean, structurally it follows a whodunit.
Yeah.
It structurally follows it, but it's not your typical whodunit because of the way it unfolds.
Right. Whenever I hear phrases like that, I'm always reminded of whoever created How I Met Your Mother. Is one time the creators were being interviewed, and they were saying, if you're really just watching the show to find out who Ted Mosby marries at the end, you're watching the show for the wrong reason. You're really just there to go along for the ride, develop these characters, and I mean that's what the movie is. A little bit too long, but definitely what the movie was made for.
I thought it was about the right length, but okay.
All right, so guys, any final verdicts or thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, go see it. Support non-IP
agreed
trash.
Wait, what? You said non-IP trash.
No, don't support the
Don't
trash.
support IP trash.
Don't support IP trash. Support non-IP, non-trash.
Good
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good movies with actual plots and, reasons to care.
Yeah, interesting characters, good actors. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Go see it.
Yep.
Alright, guys, with that, we come to the very end of this episode, too. Bo, Pat, Claire, thank you so much for being here again. Hopefully we can have you soon.
Yeah.
Thank
soon.
you.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for the tacos.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you guys for the tacos. For those of you who weren't able to taste it,
which hopefully was everyone else.
which everyone...
Yeah, hopefully. That'd be Scourge text.
Till next time, guys. Have a good one. Bye.